Welcome back, Grouch and the Brainstorm, episode 108. I am Mike, and I'm joined here today with Jill
Hey.
and Matt
Hey, everybody.
and our friend Chris.
Hey.
And I am going to have to figure out that intro because I messed up the intro, but it'll be okay. I think we'll live through that. And Chris is rocking a Metallica shirt today, and as previously discussed in one of our cuts, we had to figure out what is your favorite Metallica song, Chris? And you've had time to decide now. So
I'm going to go with Fade to Black.
okay.
Yeah, it's definitely up there. I'm going to say Wherever I May Roam.
Good one.
Tie, Whiskey in a Jar, Enter Sandman.
Whiskey in a Jar is a
tie.
good one.
Either one.
Yeah. I don't know. I
I
can't.
think Whiskey in a Jar is a cover, though. They didn't. That's
It
not
was
the original.
Thin Lizzy actually
Yeah,
was
yeah.
the original artist on Whiskey in a Jar, and it doesn't sound anything like the Metallica version of it. And you know, Turn the Page is a good Metallica song
yeah.
from the Garage album.
Yeah.
My
That's a
favorite
rewind. Is that from Bob Seger?
that is Bob
Yeah,
Seger.
original.
Yeah.
Yeah, the original Bob Seger, not
Bob Seger was
not
a
the new
badass,
Bob
too.
Seger.
Right.
I'll tell you what, though, there's a YouTube video of Bob Seger and Jason Aldean doing Against the Wind.
That's a good
And
song.
that, oh, man, with Aldean in it is just amazing. He just pumps. I mean, what a great piece of audio. You know, great.
Well, I remember. Oh, I'm
great-
so sorry.
No, go.
No, but what's your favorite Metallica?
My favorite Metallica song?
Yeah.
Probably Sarah Smiles
What?
or
Hall & Oates?
Come Sail Away. No, thanks.
I was like,
Trying to picture Hetfield singing that one. Come Sail Away.
my favorite Metallica song, probably Master of Puppets.
yeah, that's a good one.
And so here's the deal, guys. I had like 5 Metallica songs that I listened to my whole life. I did not like. I wasn't a big Metallica fan. You know, I admired their work and I watched them from when I was a kid. You know, and all the headbanging kids listened to them. I didn't. But I watched them grow up, you know, and now they're a little bit older than me. And I watched that show Stranger Things on Netflix.
okay.
And it's very rare I watch any television, but I got obsessed with, well, I wouldn't say obsessed. I got obsessed with watching it. You know, I didn't go out and buy all the Harry Potter mojo, you know. But,
Sure you did.
yeah. But I watched it, and that in one scene, this cat does Master of Puppets, and he's on top of a I was like, this has got to
With
be...
the guitar?
This has got to be the most amazing scene of any show ever.
It definitely was an 80s throwback because you're like, what?
So I started listening to Master of Puppets, and then, you know, with Apple Music, it just kind of blends into the next song or whatever, and so I just started listening to a lot of Metallica. Turn the Page was pretty much my go-to before that.
I think that I started listening like in 8th grade, and one came out, and I remember watching that video and thinking, this is some good shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was a little headbanger. And it was my sophomore year. I started listening to heavy metal, wearing all black, and just headbanging my heart away.
Well, I come from the generation where the Kiss was still pretty popular.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you had, in addition to Kiss, you had, wow, what was the band I was thinking of? There's a band, oh man.
38 Special.
No. No, what's your favorite 38 Special? So hold on, Luke.
Mike's like,
That's a
I come
great
from
one.
the generation. Remember that guy, Lawrence Welk?
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn, Mike.
I actually had to force to watch that crap.
Oh,
Graham.
that's so sad.
We were talking about Austin City Limits one day, and that's when they forced me to watch that. And they
It's
forced
not
me to watch
bad, though.
Saturday night. My grandfather was a party animal. He's like me as a well, back then he was my age. And even still, we had to watch Lawrence Welk on like Saturday night. And Chris, if you don't know what that is, it's like more of a big band era orchestra type.
Old school.
Yeah, it's
Like
it's
the Carol Burnett show or something.
yeah, well, I mean, I think we had to watch
Yeah.
that too. And so just looking at his personality, and now all this time later thinking, why in the hell was that dude? Because he was like a Hank Williams Sr. fan, and Chris Christopherson and that group. And then he was a truck driver. He's still alive, but he was a truck driver by trade, so you had these Red Sovine and all these trucking kind of music that came out back then. And you know what I'm talking
I don't
about?
know. I'm thinking of Eddie Rabbit for some reason.
Yeah, there was
Well,
a lot of
Eddie,
that.
well, and my grandfather did love Rainy Nights.
Yeah.
You know?
Or I'm driving my life away.
Driving my life away.
I mean, they're awfully.
Well,
They're
you got
catchy.
Ronnie Millsap, Eddie Rabbit.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
But this truck driving music was like, there's a song called Teddy Bear.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about then, man?
Rode the cripple boy around the neyborhood in 18 wheelers.
I probably would have just said disabled, but yeah.
Well, that's what they
Yeah, this kid was playing on. He was actually playing on a walkie-talkie and talking to all these truck drivers about his something. And before you know it, all these people
Yeah,
show
yeah.
up, and all like 50 truck drivers show up lined up. Now, why this
Start
kid was a
riding this-
big truck driving fan, I don't
His
know.
dad died in a wreck. In
What
a
are y'all
truck wreck.
talking about?
And nowadays,
Exactly.
the song, and nowadays there's like a 50% chance you're gonna get
serial killer.
catfish by a lot
That
lizard.
song,
you
doesn't,
know.
that song doesn't even play today. You know?
Yeah, you pull up in front of 50 truckers, pull up in front of a lot lizard's house, and you know, hey, teddy bear.
Okay. I
Yeah,
thought you were talking
it's,
about a movie all of a sudden.
Well, I think
No,
they
it
didn't they
sounded
make a
like
movie out of it.
I hope not.
Joyride.
Is it called Monster?
Joyride's a
I
good
think was
movie.
another one.
Well, if there's a back then though, they did take songs and make movies out of them. Now that you say that, because Kenny
Purple Rain?
Rogers had several. You know, the Coward of the County, they made a movie out of it. The Gambler, they made a movie out of it.
Elvis made 9,000 movies out of every song he had.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got Purple Rain.
Yeah, yeah.
3-minute song, and these cats are making a full length movie out of it. And I mean, and Elvis, yeah, he probably started the whole, you know, whole thing. And then Staying Alive by the Bee Gees. if
Yeah.
you think
The Way
about
We Were. Or was that a. Wait. That was a movie.
So I'm going to add to the Metallica question. Metallica or Guns N' Roses? You can only pick one.
it. Metallica.
Metallica.
Really?
However, I mean, I was a huge Guns N'
I
Roses
was
fan,
too.
like back in the day. I mean, like Appetite for Destruction, Use Your Illusion, 1 and 2. And I probably would have said Guns N' Roses back then, but I can barely stand to hear his voice these days.
November
I still
Rain.
like
I
it.
really liked November Rain.
Guns N' Roses was a monster.
Mr. Brownstone is for sure my favorite song by
yeah.
Guns N'
A
Roses.
7-minute song, November Rain is, and
Yeah.
they very rarely will they produce a song.
They did
that
Live and
long.
Let Die, the Beatles.
long song.
Or what's his name?
And then they did Live and Let Die, Knock It on Heaven's Door, and Live and Let Die was actually a remake. I mean, it was on the movie Terminator, I believe. I may be wrong, but it was part of no, maybe not. They did a song for the movie Terminator.
Oh, it was.
I know, and I'm singing it in my head.
I am too.
Yeah, the only thing I'm singing is dun dun dun. dun,
It's
dun.
yeah.
It's the only thing I can think of when I think of Terminator.
Wait, it's a tip of my tongue.
I don't know.
You Should Be Mine.
You Should Be Mine.
Yeah.
Yep. And like all those guys were really, really popular, and that's what all the kids in my generation listened to. And right after I got out of high school, this little band cropped up out of Seattle called Nirvana.
Yeah.
And it wasn't long after that, another one popped up called Pearl Jam. And the whole music scene
Just changed.
It really did explode into something. I really, I mean, even though that was kind of my generation and everything, but like Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots, like I haven't heard rock like that in a really long time.
It, you know what changed for me too, and talking about Metallica and Guns N' Roses, but right before that, I was a little younger, and used to be on the school bus. You could listen; they would let you listen to the radio if you weren't fighting. You know, the driver's like, "You behave, you can jam out."
Yeah.
The Beastie Boys. The first time I heard them, I was like, "Who are these guys?"
I know, I
And
can't get into
kinda
them.
That kind of opened the rock and rap and all that stuff. They did all that, but man, I loved it.
Well, I tell you, I was about 14, maybe, and I could have been younger, probably 14. And I was over at a buddy of mine's house, and his father was a lawyer. So they lived in a pretty big house, and it was on a pond, and we would swim in the pond. Anyway, Brass Monkey came on, and his sister, who was a lot older than me, probably 4 or 5 years old, she's like, we got some Brass Monkey down there, and I was like, no. She's like, yeah. And so That's where it started, somewhere in there. With
Nice.
some Brass Monkey, and then 10 minutes later it was Brass Monkey and dill pickle juice, and then Brass Monkey and pond water, and
Wait, what?
Brass Monkey in my eyes, and I called my mom to come pick me up. Man, it was pretty rough.
Call my mom to come pick me up.
But they had a drink. They had a
After a
bar.
long night of Brass Monkey, huh?
They had the one was just probably only 2 or 3 hours, to be honest with you. I was
Oh, okay.
a kid, but I had to call my mom to come pick me up. I didn't know what I was doing.
You just Houdini'd out of there.
I was just like, man, this
Irish
is messed
exit,
up.
baby.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gone. He's just gone.
I don't think I'd ever felt like that before. That drunk feeling.
Oh,
And I called my
gross.
mom come pick me up, and I don't think she knew I was drunk either. To be honest with you, she's pretty sharp too. So, but anyway, we do have a topic. But before we get to that topic, do we have any announcements? In a moment of
I
silence.
think my sponsor has a birthday next week.
Okay.
Yeah, Bobby.
Well, we
Pretty sure it's Friday,
Okay.
okay.
11th, I believe.
So we got to do announcement music.
Do it.
And Bobby has a birthday next week.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him. I call him the man who gets 2 cakes, is what I call him, because I say, "What do you want?" and he gives me 2 freaking cakes, like he
Wow.
did last year. I'm
That's
like,
amazing.
Miss Thing,
What does he say? Like, I want chocolate and I
No,
want
he's
a.
very specific. If you know Bobby, it's down to the letter. No, last year is kind of a joke. Last year, he said, "Get me this one or this one." Well, I thought the way he texted it said, "Get both." So I got both.
You got both
And he's like,
cakes.
"Why'd you get 2?" And I'm like, "You said 2." And he's like, "I don't want 2." But then he took the other one home. So
It
anyway,
worked out.
so now it's kind of a joke. I'm gonna get him 2 this year too.
Get him 2 cakes. He deserves it.
Yeah, man.
And I remember Bobby's first meeting, or his first, at the club. I remember he came in with a group and spent a Saturday afternoon with us. And who'd have know all these years later? How many's he got? 7, 8?
8. It'd be
years?
8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All these years later, he's still, still doing the deal.
I think 8 or 9.
I think it's 8.
I want to say 8.
Yeah.
He got sober
It's
right
him and
before I
Callan
met
right
him.
next to
He
each
had
other.
he had like 13 months or something when I met him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about right. It'll be 8.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, Jill, what have you been up to?
I mean, just taking care of myself like the best I can through, aches and pains and
Pilates.
working. Well, like I'm working with a sports medicine doctor and a physical therapist. So I'm going to see what they suggest as far as like what to do from there. Because I like yoga and I haven't ever tried Pilates, but I think I would. But I mean, it's spring. And so I have a lot to do on weekends when it's this time of year, like mow and weed and it just a lot.
About to be snake season again.
Don't.
I've killed 4 already this
I
year.
would like to say that my snake season last year was just a
It was
complete
enough for
buzz.
everybody, wasn't it?
There was like a snake every day. I mean, like, and not only that, like, geez.
Have you ever seen the movie Snakes on a Plane?
Yeah.
Yes, and it was
Some of it,
stupid.
yeah. I can't watch it.
With these snakes on this mother.
What a good movie.
But yeah, every day I go to the chicken coop, I'm like, it's going to be in here.
Yeah.
It's going to be in here. I'm going to see one there, or it's going to be over there by the pig pen. And I haven't seen one yet, but I know it's
The last time we recorded last week, I was mowing on Benton Road, and there's a ditch canal, and I was mowing until we got ready to record. I was waiting on y'all, and I killed 3 in that little
I
spot
can't.
with
I
the
just
mower
can't. I just can't.
in
I can't
no
talk about
area,
it.
and I killed one
Like
Monday
how with a
mower.
oh.
Oh, I'm like a
Ew.
snake serial killer, dude. Let me see a snake. I don't care what it is. Dead.
Yeah.
Dead. Killed one with a weed eater this week. So
What?
in Denny's backyard. Yeah.
Man.
What do you just like stick the weed eater
Turn
at
it sideways. Whip, whip. His
So
head's
I-
off and his body flies.
I really didn't know the classification of snakes, and I had. I remember.
I'm an expert.
I remember I was a junior in high school, and I came home. My parents had a miniature Yorkie, and let her out, and it looked like there was like a tire. Why there was just a spare tire sitting in the, middle of the yard, I couldn't tell you, but I stepped inside, went back outside, and I saw her jumping around, but I saw this tire moving. And, it was a snake, and it was a king snake. And so I grabbed a shovel, killed it. Now I was so proud. I couldn't wait to show my dad. And I laid it across the porch. It was a good, probably 4 foot long. Super big around, right? And my dad gets home, and I couldn't wait to tell him, like, yeah, look what I did, Dad. And he'd be so proud of me. He's like, way to go, dumbass. You killed the one good snake. You know?
No, they all need to die.
No, absolutely.
I think this year I'm going to use a machete. That's what I'm going to.
I will
Do the Jason Voorhees thing on it, man.
Yeah.
Get you a hockey mask,
It
get you a
would-
machete, go out there and kill
I
them.
believe you have a couple.
You know,
I
Billy
do.
the
I
Kid,
do.
when he killed people, he put notches on the handle of his pistol. I do that on my weed eater. I do.
Keep a Sharpie with you at all
yeah,
times.
yeah. Just scratch one in,
I
bro.
want to see it done with nunchucks.
Oh,
That's
Oh,
Mike's
Mike.
department.
That is Mike's.
that's the only way I'll kill them. And to be honest with you, it's so fast you don't even know how to nunchucks. It's just
He's got them back in the side pocket. It's over
yeah,
with.
yeah, I mean, 1 minute there's a snake, next minute there's not. I mean,
It's just a blood stain.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, sometimes not even a blood stain. If you move fast enough, the wind will just blow it all.
I love that video of the fat guy fishing with his gut sticking out, and he's got the nunchucks in his
Yeah,
back pocket.
yeah.
That
That would
guy's-
be me if
That's
I-
my
if I
hero.
didn't.
Did you see? I think I sent you a video of a
You
nunchuck
did.
guy that's completely
Yeah, Chris
ridiculous.
sends me videos of nunchuck guys too. So I like
as
that.
often as I see them, when I come across them, they're definitely
There's
going
some
for mine.
dude that's been on like Instagram lately that's just all about like nunchucks.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Chris, what have you been up to, bud?
Oh, just work. Really, lot of stuff going on with the kids these days. Let's see, my son's got a wrestling camp coming up the week after school lets out, so he's going to Stillwater, Oklahoma for a week. Just a lot of big stuff going on. My middle girl's got a Bible deal she's going to, Bible study or something. It's a week long. My oldest she got into tennis. So I went to
Oh,
her first tennis match yesterday, and she won. I don't know anything about tennis.
Yeah, they got.
Who'd they
love-
play?
But Parkway.
okay. My little niece is on the Benton team.
So I was over there at North Bossier, and it was a pretty good time. And then, Emmy's just Emmy, just
Yeah,
going
Emmy's-
on 20,
Emmy's
it seems
just
like.
gangster.
Just
Yeah.
straight
She really is.
gangster.
Just a mini gangster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, just a lot of family stuff going on.
Emmy, Lacey, I went to a meeting the other day and Lacey had lipstick. She had just put it on, so she kisses me on the cheek. Like, I got lipstick on my cheek. So I get to the meeting and Emmy's there. And Emmy goes, "What's that on your cheek?" And I said, "Lacey gave me a kiss because I was being sweet before the meeting." And she goes, "Let's take a picture and send it to her." Like, I'm going to prove to Lacey that you have. She's going to know. So we did. We sent a selfie of me and Emmy with the lipstick.
Man,
But
you got tagged.
yeah, Emmy's so funny, man.
But yeah, just work and a lot of family stuff going on right now. So it's been real busy, but definitely well balanced, about as well balanced as we can get these days. So life is good.
That's great.
Well, Matthew, how about you, bud?
Man, we went down to New Orleans this weekend. Typical us, we roll in a caravan of chaos is what I like to call it. Ben was driving my son's little lowrider BMW car Sunday and pulls out of where we're staying, and we're out. We stayed at a state park, and it's
Oh, which one?
Tickfall.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
And we go to pull out, and we're on the way home, and it's the middle of nowhere, nothing around. And Ben just calls me. He goes, "Hey, man, I just eased off the road and flattened both tires." He ruined both tires.
And
Like both front tires?
Both right-hand side tires.
Oh, no.
So we, with no way to do anything, we're like, well, we'll just drive it to town. So we
on those
drove-
rims?
Yeah, 2 miles an hour all the way. Well, they have run flats on them.
Okay.
So they'll go
Okay.
a little while.
They'll go a while. I went 40.
So we
40
went,
miles on
we
some-
went
Corvette.
2 miles an hour all the way to, I guess it was Tickfall or Livingston.
Livingston.
And there was a dude there.
Fine,
He was
Livingston.
great, man. He's like, "I got you," and fixed us up. And we're back on the road. But,
Nice.
that's how we roll. It's just,
wait,
That's-
y'all don't know how to change tires?
yeah, we didn't have, but you can't.
Oh, two.
With two, you can only do one at a time.
I was like, this is
So instead
ridiculous.
of jack it up, go to town, come back.
Right,
we
right,
just were
sorry, I
we'll
wasn't
limp it
thinking.
as far as we could.
That's
So
just a
Thinking.
good thing he had run flats, or y'all would have been stuck,
Mm-hmm.
man.
Yeah, so here about a month ago, I was driving down Erie, and they've got a lot of construction going on down there. And it's dark, and I see a pothole last minute. I couldn't get over. There's a truck in the left-hand lane. And so as soon as I hit it, it just immediately went flat on that front passenger side. And so I pulled over into Magnolia Recovery and went to go jack it up. And as I was jacking it up, I realized it also flattened the rear tire.
Oh, boo.
So, like, had to get it towed.
Okay.
And, it was a pain.
I just drove by there like an hour ago, and they've ripped that whole street up.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's
they're fixing it. So,
nasty.
Good. Yuri drives a pothole
Horrible.
nightmare,
They've
Erie
ripped
Drive
all
has
that up.
been under construction since I was a little boy.
Oh yeah,
as Dallas.
Yes, that's ongoing every day, all day. So Matt, you got to go to New Orleans. That's
went
a
to
good
New,
deal.
went to New Orleans, man. Took the kids around the French Quarter early
Saw
in the
that.
morning. Let them walk around a little bit early.
Best
Let me rephrase. Early in the morning, and they got to eat a little food and check out a few things. And we got a good 2 hours in, and we bounced. It was starting
Nice.
to get wild by about 11 o'clock, in the
Throw-up
morning.
smell started coming back.
Yeah, but they got some. That was a life.
Changing.
Changing, check out what's going on here kind of thing. And but they had fun, and we had to go to a celebration of life for a friend of mine's dad, and that was really nice, and got to see some old friends, and it was good. So they asked me to speak. They were sharing memories of him, and they had a microphone, and my friend, his dad, it was his dad, he came over, he's like, I expect you to get up on the microphone. And there was another friend of mine standing beside me, and I looked at Brendan and I said, there's nothing I can say. Like, I'm not going to get on a mic in public and say most of this stuff was illegal, and I'm not going to do it. I don't have nothing. And Brendan goes, I don't got nothing either. That's why I'm not getting we can't tell that in public. So we just left it at
You're
that.
like, he was a nice guy.
No, yeah, he was a nice guy, but we were wild,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so anyway, we left it at that. So, but it was nice. It was nice, man. I enjoy New Orleans. I like the city. I like the energy of New Orleans. I just always have, But
That's awesome.
took the kids to Hertz Donuts. If you ain't never been in there,
Yeah, Hertz is where it's at.
Yeah, yeah.
You got to put a hurting on.
huge donut, any kind of donut you want.
Where is Hertz?
It's by the Dome, by the what
Okay.
is that? The Hyatt. It's right there.
Enough said.
It's fantastic. Big cinnamon rolls, big donuts, and they do every kind of donut. You name it, they've got it. So
Like Drip Donut over there in Shreveport. You ever been there?
I haven't been there.
No, but I'm aware of it. But I mean, like, I just can't eat donuts.
I don't eat them either. I took them. I didn't eat a donut.
It
It's
just
too much
doesn't.
for me.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
I
have free donuts in the break room every Friday, and I have never eaten one.
really.
And all
stay on
kind.
that path.
What about cookies?
Oh, I would tear them up.
You're like, that's a different
That's
Probably
what
story.
keeps the nunchucks flowing. He runs on cookies.
Let's run on cookies. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm gonna tell you right now. Like, if I eat 2 or 3 cookies before I pick up the nunchucks,
It's-
I'm probably gonna have to replace one handle or the other. Because I'm just gonna
Splinter
wear it
Go
out.
wear it out,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah, I mean, in seriousness, I've been asked to stop a lot of times because of the wind it produces.
Blows people's stuff.
Causes damage to property.
Cars running off the road.
Tornadoes.
You gotta do what you
Dust
gotta
devils.
do. So guys,
Dark devils?
dust
Sorry.
devils, dust devils.
Okay, thanks.
So what I wanted to talk about today, or what hopefully we can talk about today, is something Matt was talking to me about the other day. We had a conversation, and what level of dependence should we have on our sponsors? Now, when I say that, that is a individual basis. It's a thing that goes by our sobriety, a thing that goes by our spirituality. How involved are we in a group, right? Are we not going to meetings but calling our sponsor a lot? Are we going to a lot of meetings and not calling our sponsor at all? Or are we not going to a lot of meetings and not calling our sponsor at all, which would probably throw me into that category there. But I remember, and I can just give my experience, when I first got a sponsor, and I mean, it took me forever to get a sponsor. Not took me 2 weeks the last time I came in, but I just didn't like the idea of a sponsor. I just, and it wasn't even calling the dude every day or any of that. It didn't bother me there. I just didn't like the whole idea. But I got one because if I didn't, I was going to end up getting drunk, right? So I got this sponsor, and I remember there were times where I would not even buy a shirt without talking to my sponsor. Yeah. Now, you have to remember, there's a lot of things sponsors know. They know our financial situation sometimes. They know, like, especially me, I had child support and bills from the marriage and all these things, right? So he was very aware, but I wouldn't even do anything for myself without consulting my sponsor. I didn't call him every day, but I seen him every day in a meeting. But when it came to like relationships, I never called my sponsor and says, what should I do about this, right? I would always say, this is what's bothering me. This is what I've got going on, right? So I never was completely dependent on him, if that makes any sense. But I would let him know if I had anything stuck in my head, right? Mm-hmm. But I have seen the sponsor-sponsee relationship before where it's I need a ride every day of the week, or cash. I need a cash front every day of the week, or what should I do about my girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, husband, whatever the case may be, right? And so the big book actually talks about, you know, a lot of this stuff. And after we kind of go around the table, I'll read a little bit of what I find. But dependence on a sponsor, what do you think about it, Jill?
Well, I mean, like through the span of your recovery, I think it's absolutely 100% imperative in early recovery that you depend a lot on them. You're not known to still make the best decisions. And, you know, to me, it just was like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to do many tasks like normally. Organize finances, I mean, anything. And so she was huge in my early recovery. And it's not to say she's not huge now. Of course, they're two totally different people, but, you know, I think throughout the years, you're able to, you know, once your head clears up and you make better decisions. I relied heavily on, you know, a sponsor in early recovery, but it was with boundaries. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't think I bugged her. And she was really good, you know, with helping me find solutions. Like, she didn't give me the answer. She just kind of let me figure it out, which was tough. Because it normally took me quite a while to figure that out. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot. But now, I mean, I have a sponsor now. I don't talk to her every day. You know, I'm on a thread with her and the rest of my, you know, sisters or girlfriends that are all in the same group that are all being sponsored by her. We text all the time. We get together. We go to the lake. We eat. We meet at her house quite a bit and do big book studies and stuff like that. So, and I call her. You know, we talk about 3 times a month, like through, you know, phone call. She's still very important in my life. There are still things I'm going to pass by her. If I'm struggling, if I get angry, I'm going to call her because I need to vent. I still rely on her, but not to the degree as I did in early recovery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think a healthy degree would be for you, not for?
I think exactly what I'm doing.
Okay.
I mean, if I have 15 years sober, I don't need to be calling her every day. But some people still do that, and that's okay. That's just not, I don't need that,
right?
To be honest with you.
So in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, right, chapter 7, working with others, it says he may be broke and homeless. If he is, you might try to help him about getting a job, okay? Or give him a little financial assistance. But you should not deprive your family or creditors of money they should have. Perhaps you will want to take the man into your home for a few days. Is that what that guy down there was doing?
Huh?
Dropping off the groceries.
Oh. Okay. I thought that was some guy you had taken into your home for a few
No,
days.
but I used to do that. You know, how like a couch surfer.
Been there, done that too.
But be sure.
Come off a meth binge and just die.
Says be sure to use discretion, right?
Yeah.
Be certain he will be welcomed by your family and that he is not trying to impose upon you for money, connections, or shelter. Permit that, and you only harm him. You will be making it possible for him to be insincere. You may be aiding in his destruction rather than in his recovery.
Yeah.
And that's the part I was really trying to get to, right? Is because this is all about the new man or woman, but the new person in AA. But even long term, if I didn't, how about that? I'm not going to talk about we. If I didn't start making some decisions on my own, my sponsor died at 14 months. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Where would I be? Nobody there to make decisions for me.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be healthy like that.
Yeah.
You know, and mine let me trip and fall and make mistakes. And then I'd come back to her and we would be like, okay, so what happened?
Yeah.
I think that's important to have some autonomy because we're all, I mean, we may be acting like children,
That's
but
how
we
you
are
grow.
not. And that's how you learn.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I think you can use them to just in general keep you out of the major stuff
Yeah.
and some of that smaller stuff.
Yeah.
Fall on your butt a little bit. That's how you learn. You know?
Yeah.
Now, the big book, I'm going to go a little bit further, says never avoid these responsibilities. Okay? Now, this is as a sponsor. Responsibilities. Never avoid these responsibilities. I can't believe they use responsibilities in the big book.
It's a big word.
But be sure you're doing the right thing if you assume them. Helping others is the foundation stone of your recovery. A kindly act once in a while isn't enough. You have to act the Good Samaritan every day, if need be. It may mean the loss of many nights' sleep, great interference with your pleasures, interruptions to your business. It may mean sharing your money and your home, counseling fanatic wives and relatives, innumerable trips to police courts, sanitarium, hospitals, jails, asylums, and massage parlors. Oh, no, it doesn't.
I was like, wait, what?
Bill covered it
But
all, didn't he?
still, but like,
But your
that my responsibility is
says your
to.
telephone may jingle at any time of the day or night. Your wife or husband may sometimes say they're neglected. A drunk may smash the furniture in your home or burn a mattress. Like they can't burn anything there but a mattress. You may have to fight with him if he is violent. Sometimes you will have to call a doctor and administer sedatives under his discretion. Is that why you gave your sponsee the COVID shot that time?
Yes, yes.
Another time, you may have to send for the police or an ambulance. Occasionally, you will have to meet such conditions.
Damn,
I
that's.
think I've done all that at least one time, and I'm not joking with a sponsee.
Those are all pretty extremes.
Except for burning the mattress or whatever.
There's
have
too
you
mu-
fist fought with one?
No, but no.
Okay, there's
no.
two.
I'm low impact. Okay, that some of that stuff's just too much for me. That I have boundaries. I'm like, nope, that's not
I
happening.
didn't sign up for all this.
No, I'm not boxing.
I mean, I've hauled them to rehab.
Yeah.
Brentwood.
Done that many times.
Not jail, but I have called. I had one dude whacked out of his head and had to call the police, and they took him to Brentwood. But yeah,
Well, I think the thing with those is, I mean, I know my comfort level and my boundaries enough to know what I will and what I won't do. A lot of that stuff I will not do. But the thing is, it's getting lost. People will get lost in that and will lose themselves, money, things, time, and their sanity if they do too much of that.
and and that's where you're going to. That's what I like what you said. I have a limit as well. Hey, I'll help you to a point.
Right.
But if we're going to keep asking me to carry you to Brentwood every month because you just get out and keep doing the same thing, I'm not going to be your ride to Brentwood and pick you up and get you back on your feet every time. It's becoming a thing. And then it becomes a dependence, and they're not growing because they're not following their
Well,
butt.
yeah, and then it becomes we're enabling them,
Right.
You
So
know,
I'm
and
not
this is
helping them.
a fine line between all of this, but yeah, some of that stuff on there, no.
Yeah, I had a dude on his way to rehab. He slept on my couch for 3 days. Bro, when I tell you he didn't move, like we're going to work, going to school, dude's out. And my kids are like, who's that? I'm like, he's leaving soon. I hauled him to Ruston. But
Sounds like
yeah, he was tired. And but yeah, I've done that. And that's you want to help and you try to help, but at the same time I look at, are they making an attempt? It's an action program.
absolutely.
Are they making an attempt to get better and we had a little mess up? Is it something I can do? Or is this a common thing? And this was even going on before me. They're just moving to a new person to live this lifestyle. I'm out on that. I'm not going to help them keep doing that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, before I got into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and the whole sponsorship thing, I had to look at what I used to do, and I had to be careful because I had a family. I had children, and so there would be times where I would get a call at the early hours of the morning. Hey, I need you to come pick this guy up. If not, we're hauling him off to jail. And looking back, I would use that to justify my drinking, right? So if I would go help him, well, I probably should give myself a pat on the back, But then whenever I got into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, like I had to look at everything that I had already taken away from my family before. And so the dependency on, with my sponsor was, if it sounded like I was making a good decision, or if I had a question if it was a good decision, I was calling them. That was my dependency early on in recovery. So because I didn't know, I may have not knew. Randy says it all the time. I may have not always knew what the next best thing to do was, but I definitely knew what the wrong thing was. And there was a lot of times I would question that. I
think too, we're talking about decision-based stuff, and that's where I'm at with Bobby, my sponsor. His and I conversation was always, hey, I got this coming up. It's a job change, or it's a whatever it is, especially early in recovery. And we would sit down and go through that, because you change a job. I'm trying to do 90 meetings in 90 days. I'm trying to stay sober. I'm trying to do my stuff. Am I going to be able to go to my meeting? So it all pertained to sobriety and funneled into the life I have now, where it's part of my life. Yeah. But early on, yeah. Now, did I call him and go, hey, I need to buy groceries? I never called him for that kind of stuff. It was just, you have a job, you work, now relationship stuff with people, things like that. Yes. And we would always, one thing I like about him too, it was never as urgent as I thought it ought to be.
Yeah.
Well, I would call and be like, and he'd go, we'll talk about it. I'll see you Friday. And it was Monday. And I'm like, let's talk about it now. And then click, the phone was already hung up. So I learned to go, wait, I can breathe on this. No, the world's not going to burn down.
Yep.
And my personality of 100 miles an hour, he would sit down and logically, and it was so simple. Take a pencil and a piece of paper. And I'm like, this isn't going to fix anything. No. Yeah, it is. You start making lists and you look at it and go, oh, this is really dumb what I'm about to do here. Mm-hmm. And so that's where I leaned on him and still do. And I'm like you, I don't talk to him every day like you talk about yours, but I do talk to him a lot. 90% of the time has nothing to do with sobriety. Right. We talk about fishing.
Just life.
It's never about that anymore.
Because it's become a relationship, and we got through that initial couple of years that were really tough. But even now, I saw him the other night, and I just saw him at a gas station and walked up unannounced. I'm like, hey, what about this? And he's like, I'm on the phone right now, like he was talking. But
is that when he was on the phone with me?
Yes. So, yeah, he's on the phone with Mike. He's like, hey, there's some guy wandering around the gas station, But
I was wondering where y'all were at. I thought maybe he'd gotten home and you were sitting in his driveway.
Right across the street.
That's kind of creepy.
Dude, is that like the new hangout?
Yeah, we hang out there now. Everybody from the club goes home.
Everybody loves that freaking gas station.
Man.
The stacked and tossed.
If I could get Trace, our youngest one, Lacey and I's youngest son, he's mad because they've got every food in the world in that deli except chicken wings. And he tells them, I'd eat here if y'all had chicken wings. So he's working on them. But other than that, they got everything.
That's
good. But, yeah. But
what kind of deli doesn't have chicken wings?
Yeah, exactly.
Especially in Louisiana.
Exactly.
I just, we talk about this, and I think what I've learned and why I have I have hard boundaries when it comes to sponsees is what, I went through as a new sponsor. I learned what worked for me, what doesn't work for me, and I was able to, have expectations, and I let them know immediately. So this is what's up. You can't call me after 8 because guess what? I go to bed at 8.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do if you do need to talk to someone? Let's talk about that. All kinds of stuff. Because at first, sponsoring is hard at first. I didn't know what to do. I didn't feel like I was qualified for this position. And I had sponsees that were relying on me way too much, to the point of calling me just showing up
Yeah.
at my house,
Yeah.
showing up at places I was at, calling me nonstop.
I've had them drunk show up at my house barefooted. Had a dude show up barefooted, been on the street for 3
Yeah.
days, hammered drunk.
Oh.
And I just knock on my door.
Yeah.
Kids answer the door. It's
I
like,
had
ah.
one that got a little obsessed and stalkerish, and I was like, "This is not okay." And then I had one that was like in hysteria. I mean, just complete, like, her conversations. She'd call me like a lot, multiple times a day, screaming, hyperventilating, and I was like, I can't do this for my sanity. And I know that sounds
Yeah.
selfish and assholey, but like that wasn't where I was mentally at that time.
But
I can't do a lot of chaos.
we're not required to give away our peace in order to give somebody else peace.
You're
You know what
right.
I mean? And like my family and my people, my little crew, they deserve to have their peace as well. And so me having somebody whacked out of their head show up at my house barefooted, and my little girl answers the door like, "Who's this guy?" And he's falling off my porch.
Yeah.
That ain't cool.
No, it isn't.
And so that one was almost a fist fight, actually, Mike. That was the closest one I ever got to, and the guy was just belligerent out of his head, and he wanted to fight. So, but it didn't end up being that, thank goodness. But it could have real quick.
Yeah.
But you know, I think too much though. In the topic of this, I think we look at as a sponsor as a banker, a lawyer, a child support
Mechanic.
expert, a mechanic, a ride everywhere. You know, all these things that we put on a sponsor, and we put them, I don't want to say put them on a pedestal, but we look at them as a solution to our problems, when in reality we have a higher power. That's who we need to be talking to. And I'm very grateful for mine, that he's just very by the book. This is what we're doing. It's slow paced. We work on things, and we don't get fired up and just burn everything to the ground because we're mad for a second, you know. And that's what's worked for me personally. But I had in this topic, I had a guy that been working with, struggled, get 90 days, go back, get 90 days, go back. Again, burn everything to the ground. We wind up in jail. We wind up in rehab. We wind up wherever, 90 days, and we do it again. Some mental health things going on as well. So been talking to the guy. He's been doing good. He's moving small things along. He texted me a couple days ago at 3:00 in the afternoon. "I'm losing my mind, man. And he said it was bipolar stuff. He's cycling through this. Mad at the world. It's 90 days. It's time to ding the bell. You know, it's time to go back out there." And I went, and he goes, I'm not going to be able to handle this. Blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, so we stop right now. It's 3:00, just became 6:00 in the morning. You just got up. We started the day over from 3 to 4. And then at 4, we're going to start the day again. And we're going to pray like we do in the morning. We're going to just do this for 3 hours till you get off work. And then when you get off work, I'm going to be at your house, and we're going to talk about it some more. So he got through that deal, right? So the next few days we were talking, and he goes, "Well, you know, that was weird that worked." And he said, "I hate that I had a bad day like that." And I said, "Well, why did you have a bad day?" And he goes, "Well, I was going through all that stuff, and I was so mad, and I was so frustrated, and all these things." And I said, "But what'd you do?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, I didn't drink." And I went, bingo,
There you go.
for the first time in forever, you didn't throw it all away. I said, "So was it a bad day or a good day? Because you won. You just chalked a win up, big dog, you know?" And he totally looked at it different. And I said, "That's how you grow, man. You go through these things. They get easier as you go, but we got to work on them a little bit at a time." And that kind of stuff I love as being a sponsor.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you see a guy grin and go, "Oh, wait, that wasn't a bad day. Like, I actually, okay." And they
Yeah.
get a little feather in their cap. That's awesome.
Changing
you know?
the thought.
But I told him, I said, "Here's what you did right, too. You called me at daggum 3:00 in the afternoon at work, and you never do that." And he went, "I'm losing my shit."
Yeah.
And I went, "Well, then, okay.
And
here's
that's what we're
doing."
for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
talking them down off the ledge for sure.
And normally
Yeah.
his phone call was from jail, and Chris knows who I'm talking
Or
about.
like
Oh, yeah.
2 in the morning,
yeah,
and you're
it's
like, what the?
disappear 2 weeks. 2 weeks we don't see him, and then jail phone call.
And then hear from family members, hey, you think you're, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, you're like a sponsor. I mean, you're gonna go bail them out, right? No.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
I've never
doing
had a
that.
sponsee ask for money.
I've had some. I had one try to get me to buy my Xbox.
Oh.
he said,
What the
he
shit?
said Xbox is the only thing keeps me sober. I was like, you're in bad shape, then, my boy.
I can't help
I
you.
said, I don't even have an Xbox at my house, so you don't have one either. So read the big book.
Yeah, there's a lot of people got sober without an Xbox.
Yeah,
myself
it's
included.
Bill did. He managed
it
to
would
do
probably
it.
be
So,
like 99.9% of people did.
Luckily, I had the Wii.
Well, you've been practicing nunchucks though. When you're
Well,
down,
and you know,
just
the
nunchuck it out.
Nintendo Wii is where I really learned. You know, that's how I perfected it. Was using that one. And you're in the privacy of
can't
your
deal
own
with you.
home.
On the
don't have
Wii
to-
is where you master
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
I broke the window
A
again.
lot of people have to go to Japan to learn that.
Oh,
Mike
well, yeah,
just
the
did it on
Wii. I threw my back out playing. I was so high on opioids, I threw it out and I couldn't walk for 2 days. I played like 10 hours of bowling straight.
Nothing surprises me.
I think she woke up in
How
a bowling
high?
alley.
Yeah, how-
So high.
Here's where you're high when you wake up at your house bowling with weed. You have bowling shoes on. It's like, where'd those come from? I'm
Yeah.
in my house.
It was hard. I literally couldn't walk. I was in bed for 2 days while a physical therapist worked on me and just, again, fed me pills.
Yeah. Well, there
It
you
was
go. There you go.
great times.
Fed me pills.
Yeah. So I, to be honest with you though, in all my years of sponsoring a lot of people, my biggest challenge is just getting them to call you, you know? And I sponsor a guy, and I mean, he went off, and man, he sponsors a lot of people, right? And he's doing the deal. I hardly ever hear from him. But even in the early days, I would only hear from him maybe once or twice a week. I've never had any that really just, none show up at the house. Like, I had a couple that I would work with at the house, but I never had any show up unannounced or, and I sure as hell hadn't had any burn stuff down. Now, I have had an instance where I've had to take them to rehab a few times, and there has been a couple of things happen, and I don't want to say in detail because I'd be, there is somebody that might recognize what I'm saying, but some life-threatening things that happened that I would have to address, like on the side of the road.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but nothing really too just out there, just, I have had family members call me and come visit with me. And that sponsee that I had that actually passed away from alcohol overdose, I guess you would call it, alcohol poisoning, whatever. It's an overdose, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
His mother would come and visit with me at my place of employment whenever he was trying to get sober, and a couple of times. And of course, after he passed, I've talked to her several times. But and wives, I've talked to a few wives, and and careful not to give away too much. I just don't want to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
if they ask me how he's doing, I'll just have to say, well, you tell me. You're
Right. Yeah,
the
well-
Alcoholics
You know 'em.
Anonymous.
Yeah.
The true growth is going to show up in family, right? Home, occupations, and affairs. That's exactly what the book says. in
For
that
their
order.
actions and all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff.
So you tell me how they doing?
And too, talking about being just a sponsor, this was a guy, I've told this before, but there was someone with some heavy, true mental things going on.
Some serious mental
And we
challenges.
got through that and started going through that. And I looked at the guy and I said, brother, I'll be glad to sponsor you and work steps with you, but I think you're above my pay grade. Like, I don't even know what all this is, and they're recommending that you meet with a doctor, and I think that's what you need to do. We'll work steps all you want. We can talk every day on the phone.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm going to do you as much good as what you need to be doing with these folks.
Yeah.
And he did go that route, hopefully, and I haven't heard from him in a while, but some of that stuff is just like, yeah, I'm not a doctor or any type of clinical nothing, and I'm having to Google all the medications you're taking. I'm like, ugh, I don't know what that is, So you can get into that too. And like that poor guy was just doing everything he could to stay alive, you know, and you feel so bad. Like, but I'm like, I just don't think we're going to make a dent, you know, enough to matter.
As we would call it, it'd be out of your scope.
Yeah, there you go. Good.
Well,
That's-
one thing I would like to say though is I don't want anyone that's listening to question whether or not they're too dependent on their sponsor. If you're struggling to stay sober, keep doing what you got to do.
Yes.
Call them, you know, do whatever. That's not the point of this, right? We're talking about our experience being sponsees and being sponsors. And we've had some interesting ones, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, Lord.
But you know, and if your sponsor thinks you're too clingy or whatever, get another sponsor.
Well, and also, I mean, like, a sponsor will set boundaries. And if there are newcomers listening, that's normal. You know, they may take it as rejection because there's so many things that are going on with our personalities and trust and companionship and I don't know. I don't want any sponsee, any newcomer to think that they're putting me off or they're not meeting my needs in a sense.
And
It's just like we all have to have our own space.
In that meeting, that initial meeting with them, I don't know how y'all do it, but I look at them and tell them, do not let me in any way, shape, or form hold up your recovery. This is your recovery. This ain't about Matt. This ain't about nothing about me. Mm-hmm. So if I'm not doing whatever you feel you need, get rid of my ass, and I'll be glad to help you do. Like, there's no personal. This is not a, you know. But I want to make that clear with them. But I also make it clear from my end. This is what if you ask me to sponsor you, I'm gonna do it the same way I did it. That's the only way I'm gonna tell you.
Oh, for sure.
This is how I did it. It's the only thing I'm gonna speak on. And you can choose to do it that way or not. That is up to you. But there's also things where we're not going to be able to work together if you don't do certain things as well. And so that's probably the biggest thing I'm clear with them up front on. And
yeah, I like to give them an out and let them know if there is ever a point where you just are not feeling it, you're uncomfortable, you need more or whatever that is, it will not hurt my feelings if you choose to go with someone else.
I had a guy fire me, and he's like, "Who would you recommend?" And he was upset. I was like, "I'm not upset,
Yeah, I
dude.
know.
Go,
Like-
please." I was like, "Call Chris, call Cal." I was naming off all these names. He calls Chris. He got Chris's sponsor.
Yeah, so I called Matt and I was like, "Hey man, your sponsee hit me up." He was like, "Great."
Yeah, I was like, "Yeah, I got fired." So,
But no,
and I was happy for it, man.
Yeah.
You know,
like when I first, Jill, you mentioned, you know, getting into sponsor, and I didn't realize how difficult. I just felt like my plate was so full just with my first sponsee.
Yeah.
And I mean, he has done great. He hits 2 years in June, and he's been my only successful sponsee. And so when I first got into this, I think I had up to 3 or 4 sponsees at one time, and my sponsor was real big. Cal was real big on making sure you set those boundaries.
Yeah.
And because for me, I wasn't thinking. I've got my own recovery. I've got a job. I've got 2 jobs. You know, I've got kids. I've got all this stuff going on. So, you know, I'm going to have to take away from somebody to give, you know, to that
them.
sponsee.
Yeah.
And so I was real big, and I'm glad y'all mentioned, you know, the boundaries and the little disclosures, you know, and I've told all of them, you know, it's one of those things. If you feel like you're not getting enough from me, or you may need a higher level of care, so to say, then by all means, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I need to hear that. You know, I want to give you what I can, but at the same time, my biggest thing, Mike mentioned it, was just having people call me back. I mean, I think I've went through, give or take, 20-ish sponsees that had just kind of come and gone. And with the family members, you know, that was something I had to learn to put boundaries up. You know, because these family members would call me and be like, "Hey, I don't know if you know this or not, but your sponsee is downtown at a bar drinking." Like,
Oh my gosh, I've never had a family member contact me.
and that was weird, you know. So,
Yeah.
Oh, one of their. I thought it was one of your
no,
family.
it was like her.
Boy,
it was
y'all
like
have
her,
a tight
husband.
group.
Her husband. She's like, "Yeah, he's down there getting tanked right now. You're gonna go get him, right? Or you want me to call him and tell him you're on your way?" I'm
my
like,
gosh.
"No, absolutely not.
What are you gonna
know?
do?
What am
Yeah.
I gonna do?" So those boundaries are absolutely key in sponsorship.
Yeah,
So,
what you were going to allow, and for lack of a better word, right?
Yeah, you're right.
But what am I going to allow this person? I have never fired one, right? I watch them go out. I watch them come back. I'm always there for them. I'll always be their sponsor if they need a sponsor. But as far as like, I'm not going to go to a bar. If they call me and say, come get me from this bar, I'm going to go get them, right? But I'm not going to go to a bar because someone calls me or
try to talk them out of doing what they're doing.
No.
You know,
And
I
a
have
lot-
no dog in that fight.
I've met sponsees at the club. We're on step whatever, 3, 4, 5, you know, and they got the red face and the alcohol breath, you know, and you just keep pushing along. The whole point is they're here.
Right.
Yeah.
And they made it,
Yeah.
right?
Look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
And
it's
that's-
always action. It's like what we were talking about. What's your intent? I mean, even with drunk and smelling like a drunk, they're sitting in a clubhouse. You know,
Yeah.
they're at least trying to figure it out.
So,
And,
how many sponsees do you think is too many, Jill?
We'll see. Like I said, I'm low key, and I can't ever do more than 3.
2 is my max.
Okay.
doing steps usually 2. I try to do 1 at a time, but
Yeah.
but you know, you get those 1, 2, 3, and I'm out of here. That's kind of like a broken record. So they run through a lot like that. But yeah,
So I'm gonna sound really selfish here, but I've had at most 5. But the reason why I really liked having 5 is because I got to learn and memorize the big book really good with 5 sponsees. Like I'm on A Vision for You with 1. I'm on Bill's Story with 1, and you remember which page stuff is on when you're going back and forth. And I used to dedicate either
you're
a
like an
Saturday,
encyclopedia.
either dedicate a Saturday or a Sunday to spending it with my sponsees, you know, and like if I could get to 3 one day and 2 the next afternoon or something. But that would be, but where I was going with that is my sponsor, at the time, he's not my sponsor now. He moved to Houston, but he told me he told me never have more sponsees than you have years sober.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
That was like a benchmark.
Okay.
And now he told me that at 4 years.
Yeah.
And it may have been his gentle, of course, you know how gentle Phil is.
He's
Please.
It may
Mikey,
have been
Mikey.
It may have been his gentle way of just saying, "Hey, you've got enough.
Yeah,
Stop."
settle down.
Because I was about 4 years, you know, when he told me don't have more than the years you have sober. Because obviously, you know, Jill, you 15 years sober.
Yeah, there's no way in hell.
You'd have, yeah.
Phil,
There's just
Phil,
no
unbeknownst to me, Phil went to church with a family member of mine, and I was early coming in there. And my uncle saw Phil at church all the time. They were buddies. I didn't know this. And my uncle went over to him and said, "Hey, my nephew's trying to get sober and all this stuff." And Phil goes, "Yeah, I know who he is. He does anything wrong, I'm going to kick his ass." That's what he told him at church.
God, and you
I didn't know about this
sound
till
just
years.
like
Yeah,
him, too.
and I didn't know about it 2 years later, and I laughed. Me and Phil laughed about it. He's like, "Oh, I wasn't going to let you get out of line." I'm like, "Thanks, Phil." Thanks, I appreciate
I
that.
remember I got like 2 years, maybe 3, and there wasn't no patting you on the back or you know, it looks good on you. None of that crap. Don't F it up.
Yeah.
Except for obviously he didn't use the term F.
The
right?
same guy that says, you know, I go, "How'd you get 48 years?" He goes, "I didn't die and I didn't drink." That's it. You know, that's the whole secret
Well,
to the whole
and
thing.
how long is that? May 10th, 1979.
79. Yeah, it's 40. My birthday's in March of 79. It's 46 years, 45 years.
That's amazing.
That's
He'll probably be
crazy.
the first person I ever seen to get in myself. I know
His
people got
46
in
years
50.
is coming up. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
actually May 10th. So
Yeah.
yeah. But he gave me that bit of advice, and I, you know, or that suggestion, and I've always ran with it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
don't
that's
have
nice.
more sponsees than you have years recovery.
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of a superstar when it comes to sponsoring people. I mean, I like that, but I feel like I do a lot of like education, and that's important to me in my recovery. Now, my sponsor has like 9, maybe a little bit more. And I'm like, damn, how do you
know,
do that?
You take it a step further too. You know, those of us that work in treatment, I've worked in it some. You guys do all kind of stuff with treatment. You also have, and one reason why the sponsees are low, you have so many dudes that are just like I know Chris does. hey man, can you help me get a job? Hey, can you help me do this? And you're sort of semi-sponsoring them without doing any steps, without doing all that, but you're just kind of rooting for them and helping them along. And that can be a lot.
Hundreds.
On top of having a sponsor. So you say I'm only sponsoring one, but you got 30 guys that are going, I just got out of jail, man. And they're really trying. It's not a, and that never stops, so it's kind of weird to say a sponsee, but
Yeah.
And I'm kind of, yeah, I'm with you on that.
you know what I mean? You kind of get that in this program. And I call them buddies, your guy you meet at a meeting and he's new and you're like, hey, I'm pulling for you. And just kind of checking in with them and things like that. There's a lot of that goes on.
Well, another thing that I think is like really cool, and another reason why I don't have to call my sponsor every day is I have friends that are also in recovery that have long-term recovery. I don't have to call my sponsor about every little thing. I can pass it by all my girlfriends, my boys, all my friends. I have so many friends, and like all my friends are in recovery, and so that's what I do.
I called
sometimes.
him the other day on the way to record, and I was checking to see what time he was going to be here or whatever, and I had one about a sponsee that was doing something, and I said, hey, what would you do? I never even called Bobby. He told me kind of, and I was like, yeah, you're right. And so,
and that's kind of the cool thing about AA.
Indirect sponsorship, with the friends in recovery.
And you get to know a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and that have, special interests. I've gone to Mike about, financial stuff before, and I don't even know other than that, but
yeah, you have people that have different areas of expertise, and that's what's beautiful about this thing, man, is like we know lawyers, doctors, homeless guys, we
everybody's,
know them all, so yeah.
Big network, but it's like my sponsor, he's never been married. And so a lot of my stuff when we were going through the steps, he had to reach out to his sponsor, to Bobby. Mm-hmm. And, and it was one of those things that I had to accept that he would have to, that if he told me he'd get back with me, he'd get back with me. And he did. He did. But meeting other people in recovery, people that are married and, have kids and can relate, I can go to them and say, hey, what would you do in this scenario?
Yeah.
Am I looking at it too harshly? Am I doing too much? Am I trying to? And that's the beauty of just
if I learned nothing else from all y'all on situations, and I mean my sponsor, my friends, and there's people that I love Alcoholics Anonymous. I love the group of people that it is. But there's people that I'm not going to put a nickel's worth of their advice.
Oh no!
And I love them to death, but
no,
considering where they're coming from, I don't really. But there's a lot of y'all that I do.
Yeah.
And different things. And one thing I've learned in here is just let it breathe for a minute. We tend to get I have this problem.
Immediate gratification.
And everybody's like, well, let's talk about it. And I'm like, no, I want to, it's
slow it down.
And it's learned to slow it down, let it breathe, let it play out a little bit. And that tends to, a lot of times it takes care of itself. Mm-hmm. Things take care of themselves without a big dramatic, and that's hard to do in the moment. But if I've learned nothing else, that's probably the biggest thing I've learned is just pump the brakes for a minute. Let's just breathe.
Yeah.
So,
the pause.
The pause.
The pause.
Abuse the pause.
Abuse?
Abuse the pause.
By the way, that sponsee you're talking about, do you remember the start of that? You may not. I don't know if I even told you. I saw him at an 8:00 meeting when he first came in. He introduced himself, and I had 4 guys at the time doing steps. And he's like, man, I really need a sponsor. And I said, Chris, that's who I'd get. And he called you, and y'all been rocking ever since.
Well, no, we have not, but but it was one of those short-lived deals because it was okay. I started sponsoring, and then and then everything was going great. We did the first step together, and then I'm here for him for about 6 weeks, and then Mom called and said he's in jail. You think you can put some money on his books? And I'm like, no. I mean, I can pray for him, but it's been mentioned in this podcast already. That's we're not allowing them to grow, and we're enabling them to keep doing the same thing over and over. And I'm telling you, I have learned. Granted, I learned quite a bit working the steps, but working with others is where my real growth has. Joe said something the other night in the meeting that really resonated with me, and he was talking about grocer handicaps. Of course, we're in the 4th month of the year, and talking about making that inventory and looking at grocer handicaps. And He was like, if you don't think you've grown, then go back and see what has changed from the year prior. And man, when I do that, you know, I can see a ton of growth,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But the things that I used to call my sponsor on, you know, I can look back and like, I can't believe I called him.
Changing the things
Like-
that used to baffle us. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
But you know, but I mean, that's just all part of the growth, you know. So I can make those decisions now without, you know. And again, if I can't get a hold of him, then I can get a hold of you guys. You
Yeah,
know? So
sure.
I mean, me and you talk probably 2 or 3 times a week. So
And make fun of each other.
yeah, all day.
So
It's great.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's about to wrap up another episode. Has anybody got anything to add? Moment of silence. Okay. Well, thank you all for listening. We appreciate our listeners. We appreciate everyone who has stuck with us through the transition from audio to video. We do still release an audio edition on all the platforms. It just comes a little late. And you can find us on Facebook, actually. Grouch and
Okay.
Brainstorm on Facebook. And email gnbbosier at gmail.com. gnbbosier@gmail.com is still an active email.
Okay.
So
And also leave a review.
Yeah.
leave a review.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jill likes to keep up with those.
y'all
so.
comment on there, make fun of us. I
Yeah,
mean, do something.
something. Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
something.
Yeah. Even if it's just your favorite Metallica song.
Yes, we don't care. We
Chris,
don't
thank
care.
you for coming by, bud.
Absolutely.
Guys, we've been at Rule 62 Studios here in Bossier City, Louisiana, and we've always been the Grouch and the Brainstorm.
Well, I called Matt.